difficulty balancing is difficult. So I have been working on a Stalker 2 difficulty mod that is supposed to try to emulate Ranger Hardcore to some degree from Metro Exodus, but the reality is if it was like Master Mode or as long as the game is just harder, I would be fine with either. And I'm going to talk about where the mod is at, how far along it is, and essentially what it actually does. Currently, what the mod does is it makes it so that all healing items are significantly worse, or in some cases, slightly worse than they would be normally. Health kits heal for a little bit less. All food items heal for almost nothing. Bandages heal for almost nothing. Typically, if you get a bunch of food items, you can spam them to get a little bit of health back, whereas before you could use these to full heal. So medkits are the best way to heal. I also nerfed the radiation reduction from beer and vodka, as well as anti-radiation drug, just a little bit, but beer and vodka are nerfed. Enemies all deal more damage and penetrate more armor. The economy has been changed as well. All artifacts have a significantly lower sell value, whereas certain guns have had their value increased, so that when you go to repair them, if you plan on running these guns for a long period of time, they will cost you. So essentially every single assault rifle costs more to repair and does way more damage. I buffed literally all of the assault rifles. I buffed certain shotguns very slightly. Overall, shotguns can still one-shot headshot endgame exosuits, but the thing that they still suffer in is range, of course. And I did buff the M860 so that it can one-tap at reasonable ranges compared to the other shotguns, so it is now competitive with endgame shotguns. And unlike endgame shotguns, it's a little bit cheaper to run, but it has lower fire rate. So there's like some pros and cons there. And then all assault rifles are good, including the starter AKM-74S, as well as the AR-416, and so on. So if you want to run your favorite gun, you actually can, and they're actually viable. I did buff other weapons as well. The AKM-74U, like a lot of the lower damage weapons have been brought up a little bit. Typically SMGs were largely left unchanged unless it was early game weapons, in which case they will see very slight buffs, but not much, not nearly as much as the assault rifles. I also made it so that SMGs have faster move speed when ADSing than they do already. That already is in the game, so for example, look how slow I move. Now if I switch an SMG, I'm moving much faster. So if you want to have a more mobile weapon to go for headshots on, the SMGs essentially do that. They allow you to have like higher mobility. They are cheaper to run. Their ammo is cheaper, but the assault rifles are now objectively better in terms of damage. But the SMGs have the faster ADS movement speed, so some subtle advantage there as well. And I also made them weigh a little bit less. Certain SMGs that were heavy, like the Vector, now weigh a little bit less. This was one of the balancing ideas. Make assault rifles objectively better, but more expensive to run, with worse versatility for ADS movement speed. So if you want to run an SMG and like push corners and stuff and be quick to avoid damage, you can now do a kind of like corner peeking strategy. It'll be a little bit more effective than an assault rifle, but the assault rifles see a damage increase and a range increase across the board, so they tend to just be the best gun, the best like weapon category overall, with shotguns largely being untouched, still being about as good as they usually are, which is definitely high S tier. They're still really good. So in terms of damage, what have I really changed on the damage front? So the enemies all deal more damage. Every single mutant has seen a buff in its attacks. Nothing will be one-shotting you, but the armor penetration per mutant attacks has been increased. The base damage per mutant attacks has been increased. Dog bites now slow you as well. So if you get bitten by a dog, you will experience the debuff that a snork gives when it kicks you, which is that slow debuff where you move like this fast, roughly speaking. So if you get bit by a dog, and it's not the running bite, there's a running bite attack. It's if they sneak up to you and actually bite you at point blank. Same thing with the large rats. If a large rat does a leap attack on you, it will give you that slow effect, making them actually a threat now. So those have been done. I made boars have a 2x headshot multiplier, but I gave them 450 base health. So they still will have a similar amount of health as they did before, but you have to get a headshot so that they effectively have 200 health, which is their vanilla health value. Boars do not have a headshot multiplier in vanilla. I changed this so you actually have to focus on them, so if you panic and start shooting them in the body, your damage won't be as effective. So there's that. Bloodsucker is largely unchanged with very slight damage buffs. And aside from that, let's go over the problems with the mod that still need addressed. So one of the biggest things is unique weapons, specific unique weapons, have unique modifications to them. Like they have their own item values. So I need to adjust all the assault rifles' damage, range, and item values for uniques that have that in the game's files. So I still have to go through and do that. In terms of armor, I think armor's at a pretty good spot right now. I've been testing this Siva eye suit, and essentially you can run expensive armor that's good, but it's going to cost you, and it's very difficult to make money in this modded version of the game because all the things that are worth money largely are the same things you would usually sell outside of artifacts. So you can sell armor, and you can sell guns and ammo. And the buy and sell prices are largely untouched. The only thing that I did change was I nerfed artifact value significantly. So if you want to farm artifacts for profit, you can, but it's not nearly as much. You'll probably make like a tenth of what you would make before. Now I did this because the game needs to have scarcity. If you are a veteran of Stalker, if you've beaten this game already, and you go and do a run, you're probably just going to go collect all the items that you want for your run. You're going to go get endgame armor, endgame weapons, loot a bunch of crazy stashes you have no business looting, and then you're going to be overpowered. So in order to reduce the effectiveness of armor, I made it so all NPCs' guns have higher penetration. Their penetration values are actually lower than yours. So if you pick up a Vector and it has a penetration value of 3, for the enemies, it typically has lower damage and lower penetration, like in the in-game files. And the reason they did this is because if you're getting shot by 3 NPCs using vectors, and they all have the same damage as the player, you're going to get instantly killed. So in order to compensate for you being outnumbered, your guns deal normal damage and penetration, and enemies deal less. Now, I didn't give them your values, but I did improve their penetration and damage about like 50% to 100% in some cases. Now, there's still no one-shot weapons. If you are armored, you won't be getting one-shot by Gosses and M701s and stuff. I don't really like random one-shots. I feel like it's kind of like bad game design. If I'm out in the open and I get lit up by a few enemies and I know they're there, that's my problem. Like, that's player skill issue. But if I'm just like running around and a dude from like across the map just like body shots me for full health through like endgame armor, that just feels stupid and random. So I didn't give anything one-shots. For chimeras and pseudo-giants, I largely left them alone. They don't have headshot multipliers. Well, actually, the pseudo-giants don't. The chimera does. So chimera does have headshot multipliers. I think of like 2 times in the game files. The little head doesn't have a different one, so it's basically the same. But essentially, if you play this modded version, which I will be releasing soon after I go through more changes, you will die significantly faster. It's harder to make money. It's harder, and because it's harder to make money, it's more difficult to run crazy endgame armor because the repair costs will bankrupt you. Now, some people do this workaround where they just run armor and let it get to breaking points. And for whatever reason, armor at 0% durability never breaks. It just stays at 0% durability and still gives you stats. So I could probably modify the game files so that when armor is at 0%, it gives you nothing or next to nothing. Ideally, it would just break to like punish the player from being, crazy and reckless. Like, I don't think things should be able to hit 0%. They should just like get destroyed. On the highest difficulty, I feel like that's fair. I also nerfed Weird Water, but the devs actually nerfed it worse than I did. They used the same idea behind the nerf as me. I gave it a strong radiation reduction effect. They put it at a medium. So they actually nerfed it more than I intended on in this patch. So now base game's Weird Water is more nerfed than what I did. For other artifacts, I haven't touched those too much. I wasn't going to do like an artifact overhaul or anything like that outside of changing the stats on certain things. Or I'm sorry, outside of reducing the cost, the value of certain artifacts. Now, in a way, when you buy artifacts, they're cheaper also. So if there's an artifact at a merchant, it is cheaper to buy. But if you do artifact runs, you're not really going to make that much money. And you're better off just like looting and continuing to make progress. But overall, I've been having a good time streaming the hardcore mod I've been working on. And I've been having, some pretty good results with some of these changes where the combat actually feels tense and interesting. And the mutants feel like they're more of a threat now, especially the large rats. Their jump attack actually hits pretty hard and penetrates a lot of armor. So if you get caught by a jumping rat, it's going to slow you. And then other jumping rats can combo off of that and follow up, and you can easily get, like, bursted down. So it's actually kind of interesting. Same thing with dogs. If a dog bites you, the other dogs can get at you, and you have to kind of kill them rapidly. So you kind of have to be looking around, looking for things to jump on when exploring, being quick. So here's like a dog trying to come at me right now. And there's the buff, the debuff. I'm like debuffed right now. It's only when they bite you when they're right next to you. If it's like coming up to you. Like if it's doing the running bite, which is a separate attack, it won't do the stun. Actually, let's show a firefight. Yeah, they're not gonna like that. They're not gonna like that at all. They're like, hey, that was our guy. So let's show some damage. Hello? Shoot me. There you go. Yeah, there you go. Here, I'll show some. I can't stand out in the open for too long or I'll die. Yeah, I'm getting melted pretty quickly by early to middle game weapons. And then the bleed effect. Bandages are the best at removing bleed. I reduced the bleed reduction on the red med kits. You want to go for headshots just like an SOC. You can. I'm getting better with irons. I haven't used them in a while. I still need to figure out how to get like the weapon models so I can start retexturing stuff. But yeah, look how much damage I'm taking from individual enemies. And also note that I had to hold angles, peek out, and be very deliberate with my headshots. Because if you waste ammo, it's going to burn down your gun. If you burn down your gun, you're going to burn out your money. And it is harder to make money with this mod because you can't just artifact farm. So anytime you get an artifact, you can still sell it for like 1 to 2,000 if it's a good one. But anything beyond that, like anything below that really is only just worth like 500 or so. Alright, so that's it for this one. Definitely like and subscribe if you enjoyed this or found this interesting. I do apologize for not releasing the mod sooner. The main reason is I'm currently playtesting it while I am streaming. So as I venture out into the new modded universe, I have to, you know, test things, check things out, and make adjustments as needed as we go. But that is it for this one. Definitely like and subscribe. Peace.